Everything changed in a matter of seconds. Welcome back to NFL Nexus, everyone. Let's dive right into today's explainer, because what we are looking at is a cinematic breakdown of a 12-5 playoff team that has, quite frankly, undeniable championship aspirations. I mean, we're talking about a squad that fought tooth and nail all the way to the divisional round, only to get booted out by the New England Patriots. But here's the thing. As they pack their bags and prepare to enter the absolute meat grinder that is training camp, a deeply hidden and honestly potentially fatal weakness has just emerged. It's the kind of vulnerability that could literally unravel everything they've spent the last year building. Before we expose exactly what that is, do me a quick favor, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit that like button, and let me know your thoughts in the comments as we go along. Oh, and if you really want to support the deep dives we do here on NFL Nexus, consider becoming a channel member. All right, let's get into it. We are going to examine the absolute extremes of this Houston Texans roster, the highest of highs and the terrifying lows.
So to really understand the true anatomy of a legitimate contender, we have to ask ourselves a pretty uncomfortable question. What exactly is the fatal flaw of a 12-win team? Because look, everything changed for the Houston Texans last season, right? The entire culture shifted overnight. The expectations absolutely skyrocketed. But to truly grasp if this roster can survive a grueling championship run, we have to meticulously, and I mean meticulously, expose the tension between their elite league-leading strengths and their glaring, undeniable weaknesses. You know as well as I do that in the NFL, your weakest link is exactly where the opposition is going to strike. Defensive coordinators are up at 3 a.m. figuring out how to exploit that one weak spot. And for Houston, the gap between their best players and their worst position groups isn't just a gap, it's a canyon. It is a massive vulnerability just waiting to be cracked open on a Sunday.
So, let's start this breakdown by looking at the absolute peak of this roster. Number 1, the absolute best position group on this entire team, the defensive ends.
Listen, when you're building a modern NFL defense from the ground up, you start at the edges. It's a passing league, you got to hit the quarterback. And right here, we're looking at a sheer unadulterated concentration of elite power. You've got all-pro first-teamer Will Anderson Jr. on one side and seasoned star Daniel Hunter on the other. Together, they form what might undeniably be the most terrifying edge-rushing duo in the entire National Football League. No exaggeration. This is the absolute lifeblood of the Houston defense. It's how they operate, it's how they dictate the game, it's how they survive on 3rd and long. Now, sure, there are still some lingering questions about who's going to step up as the third edge rusher behind them in the rotation. Maybe Logan Hall takes that leap. But there is zero doubt about the absolute devastation this 1-2 punch is going to cause. They are the engine. They force opposing offenses into those split-second, panic-driven decisions that lead to turnovers and game-wrecking plays. It's an absolute nightmare for offensive coordinators to scheme against. But, and this is a big but, a relentless, terrifying defensive line is practically useless without the guys covering the deep half of the field. The pass rush and coverage have to marry up perfectly. And man, do they ever in Houston. The Texans possess the number 2 ranked cornerback room and the number 3 ranked safety room in the league. Think about that for a second. That is a secondary loaded with just an overwhelming amount of star power. You have Derek Stingley Jr., who is out there looking to piece together another true all-pro level campaign. He's a lockdown guy. Then opposite of him, you have Kamari Lassiter, who is rapidly, emerging as the best number 2 corner in the NFL. And at safety, the depth is just staggering. It's almost unfair. From Pro Bowler Kalen Bullock flying around making plays, to the incredibly versatile Jalen Pitre coming down into the box, all the way to veteran free agent addition Reed Blankenship. And don't forget, Blankenship brings vital Super Bowl experience from his time with the Philadelphia Eagles just a couple of years ago. When you put all these pieces together, they create a backfield that is nearly impenetrable.
All right, but as we know, a suffocating defense alone does not win modern NFL championships. You got to put up points. So we pivot over to the offensive firepower, specifically moving down to the number 4 ranked unit on this roster, the wide receivers.
Now, led by Nico Collins, who's finally acting as a true dominant number 1 receiver, this unit is deeply, deeply talented. With players like Jaden Higgins developing into a really formidable threat on the outside, the offensive arsenal is definitely primed. But the true emotional core of this entire offense, it hinges on one man, Tank Dell. I mean, think back to last year. Everything just kind of stopped when Dell went down. He suffered a devastating torn ligament and meniscus injury. We're talking about the kind of catastrophic knee trauma that legitimately alters careers. It was brutal. He was forced to watch the entire back half of the season and that heart-pounding playoff run entirely from the sidelines. And that's heartbreaking because before the injury, in his first 2 years, Dell was nothing short of electric. He logged 98 receptions for 1,376 yards and 10 touchdowns. His superpower was always those sudden, violent changes of direction. He could break a defender's ankles in a phone booth, but when a guy whose entire game relies on twitch and explosion suffers major structural damage to his knee, the haunting question always remains, right? Will that explosiveness ever truly return? Well, then came the footage. A few weeks ago, this intense, grueling workout video drops. It's Dell at the University of Houston alongside Packers receiver Matthew Golden just putting in absolute work. And man, the fan reactions instantly poured in across social media, and they are incredibly inspiring to read. One keen observer on X hit the nail on the head, posting, "The sudden movement and twitch look really good." And they really do. But fans are still kind of holding their breath, right? Because we're all deeply aware of the massive force he's putting into the turf with every single cut. Proving his quickness is back in a t-shirt and shorts is just the first step. But listen to me. If Tank Dell is truly 100% ready to roll for Week 1, he is ready to anchor this elite arsenal alongside Nico Collins. And that would entirely, fundamentally transform what CJ Stroud can do through the air.
So, to understand the full scale of this roster, we need to take a second and examine the solid middle-tier core that's really holding everything together behind the scenes. This includes the number 5 ranked linebackers anchored by Azeez Al-Shaair, who is coming off just a phenomenal, lights-out first-time Pro Bowl season. Then you got the number 6 ranked defensive tackles, featuring the savvy veteran Sheldon Rankins eating up blocks in the middle. Now, surprisingly, sitting at number 7 is quarterback CJ Stroud. Wait, hold on, I know what you're thinking. 7th? But let me be absolutely clear, this isn't a slight on Stroud at all. It actually speaks volumes to the sheer overwhelming depth of the defense that the quarterback unit ranks 7th overall on this team. Entering his 3rd year in Nick Caley's offensive system, Stroud provides a deeply stabilizing, mature presence under center. He's the real deal. And then right behind him at number 8, we have the interior offensive line, functioning as the vital glue of the Texans' offense, with plus-level starter Ed Ingram holding it down at right guard.
That depth continues right into the number 9 ranked tight end room. And I'll tell you, this is exactly where the battle for roster spots is going to get incredibly heated. Dalton Schultz firmly leads the way as TE1. He's Stroud's ultimate reliable security blanket on critical downs. But behind him, it's a really intriguing mix of young, hungry prospects and hardened veterans. You've got Brevin Jordan returning from a severe, season-ending injury, fighting tooth and nail to reclaim his role. Then you throw second-round rookie Marlon Klein into the fray, right alongside third-year player Cade Stover and the seasoned veteran free agent Foster Moreau. The training camp battle in this room is going to be an absolute bloodbath, in the best way possible, as these guys fight for very limited snaps in an offensive scheme that demands absolute versatility from its tight ends.
But here's where the foundation is really starting to crack. As we drop to the bottom of the depth chart, we are no longer talking about foundational pieces. We are entering the danger zone. We are talking about the number 10 ranked unit on this team, the running backs.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The reality of this rushing attack is incredibly grim. Just look at the numbers from last season. This offense ranked 22nd in the NFL for total rushing yards and a completely dismal 27th in total rushing touchdowns. You cannot be a balanced championship-caliber team with numbers like that. So to try and fix this massive hill they have to climb, the front office went out and acquired David Montgomery via trade with the Detroit Lions. Okay, sounds good on paper, right? But here is the haunting detail. Montgomery is coming off his absolute worst career season, and he is now creeping perilously close to 30 years old. In NFL running back years, 30 is practically ancient. It is notoriously unforgiving on the body. Until Montgomery can actually get on the field and prove he still has the legs to be a true punishing RB1 alongside Woody Marks, this unit remains a massive, glowing vulnerability for the entire offense. If they can't run the ball, defenses are just going to pin their ears back and hunt CJ Stroud every single snap.
Which brings us to the absolute bottom of the barrel, the darkest corner of this roster, the number 11 ranked unit, the offensive tackles.
Look, we live in an era where NFL defensive ends are faster, they are stronger, and they are more lethal than ever before in the history of the sport. Your offensive tackles are literally the only thing standing between your franchise quarterback and total season-ending disaster. And for the Texans, the internal mismatch here is frankly terrifying. Think about this. On one side of the practice field, you have an unstoppable number 1 ranked defensive front in Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter. Iron sharpens iron, right? But protecting CJ Stroud's blind side and front side during actual games, you have a staggering liability. At left tackle, you have Aaron Day Ursery coming off a highly volatile, completely up-and-down rookie season. He has all the physical tools, but the consistency just isn't there yet. On the other side, you have Braden Smith, a major free agent addition who unfortunately carries the heavy baggage of being historically banged up. The guy has dealt with various lingering injuries over the last 3 straight years. Now sure, Trent Brown is also in the mix for some depth, but the reality is incredibly stark. If Ursery doesn't take a massive quantum leap in his 2nd year, and if Braden Smith cannot finally stay healthy for a full 17 games, this offensive line is going to collapse under pressure. They are, without a single doubt, the roster's absolute weakest link.
Which leaves us with one final haunting question as the brutal Texas heat beats down on the start of training camp. Can the emotional return of Tank Dell and the sheer unstoppable force of a juggernaut defense actually survive a full 17-game season and a grueling playoff run if the very men tasked with protecting C.J. Stroud ultimately collapse? The margin for error in the NFL is razor-thin, guys. A championship window can snap shut in a fraction of a second, usually because of one blown block or one bad break. The Texans have built an absolute masterpiece on the defensive side of the ball, but their fatal flaw on the offensive line threatens to tear the whole thing down. Will the front line hold up, or will this supposed contender crumble from the outside in? We are going to find out very, very soon. Keep your eyes on the trenches. It's going to be a wild ride. Once again, thank you for tuning into this explainer on NFL Nexus. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video, and comment below. Do you think the O-line will ruin their season? And if you want to support the channel even more, hit that join button and become a member. I'll see you all in the next one.